Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Jim and Frank's Thursday Throwdown!
Well, Jim, here we are at another Thursday Throwdown and another special guest. Why don't
That
you
is right.
do an introduction for us?
Okay. Well, today we have Jacob Strong with us. And in case you hadn't noticed, we have the same last name.
Yeah.
He's a distant relative. When I say distant, I mean about 400 miles away.
There you go.
So
There we go.
my son, Jacob, guitarist with the Apaches
I love that band.
They're on hiatus.
on hiatus. That's okay.
You still playing, keeping your chops up and everything?
I think I got a project I'm going to be hopping into kind of maybe in the next couple months, but pretty slow.
All right. Well, I look forward to hearing anything you do for sure.
Yeah.
I love that, especially if it's in the same vein of that Apache style. Even I've been getting into the blasters lately and
Ooh.
revisiting them, I should say, and that whole clean guitar sound. I just love that. But when you put in that surf vibe that you guys did, holy mackerel, that was great.
Thanks.
Well, so here we are. We're not going to be talking about the Blasters or the Apaches, but you did pick a band and two records for us to have a throwdown with. I've been doing curls all week long, getting pumped up for this. So why don't you tell us the band and the albums we're going to talk about?
Okay, so we're going to talk about The Replacements, and I picked Pleased to Meet Me and Don't Tell a Soul.
All right. Talk about 1979 and then, 1987 and 1989. Those records came out. Before we even get into this, why these two records?
So I picked them because they are very different, production-wise, kind of sound-wise. Also, I feel like Don't Tell a Soul just doesn't get quite enough love. I feel like it's probably their least appreciated album.
Okay. Do you kind of get why?
I think it's kind of a departure. I think I definitely hear kind of where Paul Westerberg was going. If you listen to his solo stuff, it's definitely got that vibe to it. But I just love it. I eat all that stuff up. So
okay. Well, let's start with Pleased to Meet Me, because that's an album that I love. And there's a couple of tunes on there, of course. When they change gears, that really just irks me to no end, because I love their raw punk sound that they were doing. And this album starts off with three bangers right in a row, and then it jumps into what was the name of that song? Nightclub Jitters. Like, now, what do your guys take on that song?
Very, very jazzy.
It is jazzy.
I love it all. I love the whole album. There's nothing I don't love on it. It's
right.
great.
But once you guys say, like, stylistically, it's a little all over the place.
It is.
I mean, everything from like straight up rock to like kind of a boogie woogie vibe to jazzy nightclub tune.
Yeah.
It's and punky at the same time.
Right. They had that edge at that time where they could do almost anything. Stones almost had a Stones vibe. You know, they just were playing everything and it all worked. For me, like I say, that Nightclub Jitter, that doesn't work for me so much because I'm in a groove at this point, right? And then we're going. And like, I even check, is this the same record? Because it sounds so different.
Right.
Well, for my money, much better than the Stones.
Okay.
For whatever that's worth. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think Paul Westerberg's a much better songwriter than any of the Stones were. So
Whoa, boy, you're treading on some sacred ground there.
I know I'm going to upset some people.
Oh, you got to remember, yeah, the majority of our listeners are of a certain age group.
I know.
And,
I just committed the cardinal sin.
it's all
Right, but I mean, that's you're looking at a generational
yes,
difference there, right?
yeah.
Whereas we're jaded, we hear the replacements and we can hear like, oh, they're like recycled Stones.
We know where they came from. We know where they three cool singles off that record, right? The Ledge, which got banned for a while because it was
Oh, did
had
it?
suicidal talk in it, right? And let's talk about Alex Chilton. This is probably the coolest track ever in life because we have a song titled Alex Chilton, and who plays guitar on it?
Alex Chilton.
There you go. He's digging it himself.
Yeah,
I love that.
Paul Wester, we're a big Alex Chilton fan.
Yeah.
I want to say maybe the first replacement song I could ever remember hearing.
Yeah, I think it is
like
for me.
regularly on the radio.
Yeah.
You know,
the last single off that record was Can't Hardly Wait, which is a little slower
yeah,
compared to the rest of the album as far as the harder rock tunes. This is where they were headed. When you listen to that song and that vibe of the singing and everything, you kind of get an idea. Maybe things are going to change a little bit.
Definitely. It's been covered a couple times actually too. I found on YouTube a couple people have covered it.
Oh,
and
cool.
So got a little wider appeal.
Yeah. It's always good when you do find covers because sometimes it's an absolute car wreck, and then other times it's a happy accident, right? You stumble on something like, wow, I wish I would have found this sooner. So, I don't know. That album for a punk record, 33 minutes long, almost perfect length for an album, right? All the songs just get to the heart of the matter. And
that's one thing I love about this band.
Right.
They don't dicky bird around.
No, you're not gonna find them opening up for somebody like the Grateful Dead. Right. There's no long extended jams happening with these guys.
Don't bore us, get to the chorus.
There you go. All right. Now how about Don't Tell a Soul? We had some changes in the personnel. And I was reading today because I didn't know the story of why the guitarist was fired or he quit. Depends on who you talk to. Can't get an answer from him now because the reason they say he was fired eventually ended his life.
Yeah.
So there were drug and alcohol issues, which with many bands this happens, right? But Jacob, do you think the changing of an original member and getting another guitarist had a lot to do with the change of the sound, or was this something that was already going to happen?
I think that probably had a lot to do with it. I think kind of Paul had a lot more sway at that point.
Right.
But I haven't read my copy of what is it, Trouble Boys? So
okay,
I'll have to probe that later. But
you love this album.
I do, and I think off the top of my head, we'll inherit the earth, but we don't want it. I mean, what a great line that is, right? I'll be you if there's a temporary lull. Why am I bored right out of my skull? It's like, oh, I've been there too, right? It's just like so many great like lines in these songs that really like resonate.
Dressing sharp and feeling dull.
Yeah, they were not short on clever lyrics at all. That's one good thing about them. Now, Jim, were you following the Replacements back in the late 80s?
Well, like I said, the only thing I really heard was Alex Chilton.
Okay.
And I had that cassette, right? And I would listen to it sporadically, right? But they weren't a band that I really latched onto, right? But then when Don't Tell a Soul came out, they had that video for I'll Be You.
Mm-hmm.
And that is
their first single.
Pure power pop heaven. I mean, it's the the melody is so good. Everything about that song is just so well done. Right. And when you look at that record, I mean, it's kind of a Paul Westerberg solo album.
Well,
almost,
that
right?
was what I was getting to. Um, he definitely made it his. And had you not, like I said, if you weren't a follower of the band, you would almost think, oh, this is a solo record. This is not a band effort because it sounds so different. It got polished all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And something I guess he wasn't all that pleased with himself, though.
Right. So they did re-release the album, right, with more kind of a raw feel to the album. But I went and listened to it, and I was
Doesn't do it
kind
for
of
you.
unimpressed, frankly. I think the production actually adds a lot to it, but
well, they're pop songs,
right.
Yeah.
Right. So they're meant to, I think, be a little more polished.
They're a band kind of like Dinosaur Jr. in that they're actually a pop band, really kind of disguised as a punk band, right?
Disguised as a
There
punk
you go.
band, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. They had 3 singles again. I'll Be You, which was, you said the video came out. I think that was played quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then Back to Back, and I forget the last one. There was one other single off that record, but
Aching to Be.
Aching to Be.
There you
yeah,
go.
right?
That was the third single. Now, this was the band I always read every time you read on them. This was the world's greatest band that never got to be great. You know, they were always just right under the radar.
Well, they were
so many are
self-destructive.
Yeah,
right. I mean, everybody's heard the story about them getting kicked off of Saturday Night Live, right? Because they'd spent too much time backstage just drinking. So by the time they got on stage, they were
wasn't happening.
All pretty 3 sheets to the wind. And
so it was Slim Dunlap who replaced Stinson on the guitar.
Right, Bob Stinson.
And I guess it just, the whole dynamic changed. And for me, because I was more into the punk vibe and the more of the raw sound, this was the last time I went back and listened to them. I thought, okay, they're done. They're changing with the times, and they're going to go with what's popular. And I'm done.
Yeah.
Did they do anything punky after this record? Because I really never went back.
This is their last studio record, so
okay.
I think, right? I don't think they did anything after.
I thought they had one more after this. No,
after double check. I
don't know, Jake. You're more the expert here, but I was thinking they had one more. But if they did, it had to be a pretty, I would think, a pretty painful effort, right? Well, they had become a kind of a different band on Don't Tell a Soul.
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, I just felt the record was so polished, and like you said, it matches because it is a pop record, and that was the direction it was going. But anytime a band does something like that, there's usually some remnants of what used to be, some sparks here and there. And there's a couple of tunes on here where again, the vocals, you never lose those, but the music was just not the same for my take anyways.
So they did have one other record afterwards, All Shook Down.
They did. Okay. All Shook Down. That was it.
Yes, but apparently it was supposed to be a Paul Westerberg solo album.
Okay.
But the label guy, I think, told them to release it as a replacements record.
They should have swapped that around and made Don't Tell a Soul the solo album. I mean, I think fans would have accepted the different style of music a lot more. Could have sold more. You never know.
Probably. I mean, growing up, my dad was listening to a lot of Paul Westerberg. I remember listening in the car with him. We'd listen to his solo albums. So I think Don't Tell a Soul has a soft spot with me just because that was kind of really my introduction into the Replacements.
Gotcha. All right.
So what album did you jump into? Like when you said, like, oh, I'm gonna go down the Replacements rabbit hole.
I think
Start
the
at the
first
beginning
one,
and go to the end, or
um, no, I think the first one I had listened to was Pleased to Meet Me, just because, I went by the album cover, right? What looks very interesting. And that was kind of like, kind of a
just
nice
as good as any
aesthetic.
other
And
reason.
Yep.
yeah, and so I jumped in there, but then I went back all the way to Sorry Ma and then cycled on through everything.
Gotcha.
And they definitely progressed as time went on with their lyrics and um, song structure and everything else. It was always good raw energy, but every album they got better with each record.
Well, I was going to say the production gets a little bit better with each record too.
Yeah.
And so
Sure.
I think a lot of people, look at Don't Tell a Soul as just being this polished kind of,
Mm-hmm.
pop record. But to me, it seemed like that was kind of already the trajectory they were on.
Right.
I think so. I think so.
You get a little more money, you can afford a little better studio, better production, a little more time in the studio.
Yeah.
Right.
Either of you ever get a chance to see them in the clubs or anywhere at all live?
When
No.
they freaking did that 2015 tour, they came back and did the whole thing. I was kicking myself that I didn't find out about it sooner. But I mean,
Right.
it's sold out, I'm sure, in
Yeah,
minutes.
probably instantly, right?
Yeah, they're one of those bands that you catch them on YouTube or uh, if anybody's got old VHS clips or something of them, but I never got a chance to see them live. It's about so many great bands that are good live that you just, for whatever reasons, you miss them. And I'm one of those people. I always say I'll see them next year, and then they croak or something. So much for that. But well, I guess this is that time. Jim, I'll ask you first. If you're on that desert island and you only get one of these records,
Boy, it's tough because two of my favorite songs are on two different records.
okay.
But I think I would probably go with Don't Tell a Soul.
All right. Well, I said no wrong answers. We know that. Jacob, what about you? I think I know where you're leaning.
It's pretty tough. Just because Pleased to Meet Me has so many great songs, and I'm gonna say I gotta go probably Don't Tell a Soul.
All right. Not a problem. I'll be the odd man out here. I'm Pleased to Meet Me. I think I've shown my cards are very early on.
Yeah.
I prefer that album. Again, it's the raw guitar sound, and it's just that's where I'm at.
Well, ask me next Monday, and I'll probably say Pleased to Meet Me. So there you go.
there it is. There, yeah.
Well, actually, I'm a little surprised because Jake, I expected you to go with Pleased to Meet Me, just because it is a little more raw, a little more energy, a little more punky, a little less polished, I think.
Yeah.
So you surprised me.
I like the fact that you picked these two completely opposite records. They are for a band to do a departure the way they did. It's a real good comparison because if you want to get into this band, which album would you refer to first?
Ooh. Between the two of them, or
between those two? Yeah, no.
Okay, between those two. I think Don't Tell a Soul is probably a little more accessible for a lot of people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
With no experience with the band, just because it's a little more polished, a little cleaner, probably a little more listenable for most people. So that's probably where I would tell people to jump in at. But
Right. But you have to have a
if
caveat
they're
with
already, yeah, if they're already into the punk thing, then definitely Pleased to Meet Me is
Right.
the obvious entrance for me.
that. Okay. Do you agree with that assessment, Jim?
Yeah. What do you think of Tim?
Well, so that would have been like the obvious comparison, Pleased to
Right.
Meet Me and Tim, right?
Right.
But like that would have been a little bit boring in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
fair.
It's very. It's like going with Iron Maiden and Killers, two very similar records.
Right.
A little bit of a production difference, like we talked about, but the records are built very much the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Killers might get a little bit of an edge for me,
Yeah.
but we're not talking about Iron Maiden.
No. But yeah, there you go. So we have a majority decision, Jim.
Yeah, majority decision. So I would just say, if you kind of, if you go back, you listen to some replacement stuff, I would say check out Paul Westerberg. Chris Mars has some great solo stuff. Bash and Pop, Tommy Stinson's band.
There you go.
All good stuff that those guys did after the fact.
Yeah. You're not far off there at all, because they all put out some pretty decent music.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Good.
No
deal.
slouches, at least when it came to writing the tunes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Is getting their butt off the couch to actually get out there and do it. That probably ended up being
Right.
being their downfall. All right. Well, Jim, if you don't have anything else, where do you want to take us?
I don't. See you next week.